There will be times in your healing journey that really test you and challenge you to see how much you've grown, to see how much work you've put into yourself. And there will be situations that really ask you, are you going to react out of anger? If you're in a situation where you're really irritated and you want to kind of act on impulse, are you going to listen to that impulse? Are you going to be destructive? Or are you going to react in a way that is healthier, that is more indicative of all of the growth that you've gone through? And there can also be the times where we want to stand up for ourselves, when there's a situation that we're in that we want to really speak up when something aligns with our values and the things that we care about. And there can also be times where we want to sit back and really, evaluate the situation and kind of keep our feelings to ourselves. And like I said, there can be like those other situations that we are reacting on impulse and we are letting our anger take control. Not to say that anger is bad, because it's not. We all get angry and we all get jealous and impulsive sometimes, but you have to figure out if you are going to let that control you and if you're going to really let that speak for you. But when you are actively choosing a path of growth, like I said, actively, that is something that you are consistently doing each day. So when you are actively choosing that path, that is going to allow you to reflect on situations, like I said, to see if it is something that you want to speak up about, if it's something that you want to hold your tongue about. And before I actually get into that, I want to introduce myself real quick. If you are new, I'm Julia. This is tea time, and I have my electrolyte water with me today. I haven't really been feeling tea, but yeah, here I like to help guide others in their authenticity based on my own experiences. And this topic, like being tested and feeling challenged to really see how much you've grown, that is something that I've gone through a lot. I would say like within the past few months, and I didn't really know how to package this message. But there was something that happened to me last week that really got this idea and all of these words flowing. But yeah, again, like I said, and I also have my reflections each day for each video. Again, just on things that I've experienced recently. But like I said, there may be instances where we may allow our triggers to dictate our reaction and to really act on impulse. And growing is part of that. It is accepting and acknowledging that maybe sometimes we may act on impulse, but it is also reflecting in that moment to see if it is something that is actually worth, expressing. If you really want to express that anger to somebody, what are the repercussions of that? And like I said, growing isn't perfect, and sometimes we have to grow through and learn through a situation multiple times before we've actually grasped the full lesson. And I've gone through situations before in like relationships and friendships where like I just was collecting the red flags, and I was just like, even like not being my best self. And I was just like, okay, I didn't fully grasp the lesson, and it took me years to get through it. But towards the end of it, like even the last time I went through it and like talked to that person, I was like, okay, like I can feel like this is over. Like this is it. I'm not sad about it. I've learned everything that I've done. And I've learned everything that I've gone through. I've taken every single lesson, and now I can move on to the next phase of my life. So sometimes growing is like that. Sometimes it isn't learning a lesson and then immediately moving on to it for the next time. Sometimes it can be, but sometimes it does take time. And no matter what situation you're in, growing is still allowing yourself understanding and extending yourself grace to know that mistakes are going to happen. Sometimes we may backslide. Sometimes we might repeat a lesson over and over again in order to really, take it for what it is. But that is part of growing. It isn't perfect, and it is lifelong. Like I say all the time, but it is reflecting on your mistakes and accepting the fact that sometimes you mess up, sometimes you react from a hurt place, sometimes you allow those triggers and those emotions to really dictate your reaction, but it is still consciously choosing to try again and again, and trying to be your best self. And even if it isn't, like I said, just a giant jump from learning it to, implementing it. Sometimes it is little bits that we need to learn over time, but again, that is still growing, that is still improving. And like I said, in these times, it can feel like a challenge to be yourself. It can be a challenge to feel kind. It is a challenge to sometimes still be calm and to still be patient when you want to really react on impulse. Like I said, last week I went through a similar situation, and I was just like, I really wanted to be mean and to be petty, and I just felt the anger rise in my chest. And I was thinking like, you know what, I could say this right now if I really wanted to be mean. But I had to take a few seconds to myself to really think about, one, how are my words going to affect this other person? What are they going to feel? What are the repercussions of that? And number two, how am I going to feel about myself after I've said that, knowing that I don't actually feel that way? I'm just angry right now, but am I going to let that anger dictate how my relationship is with this person? Am I going to let my anger maybe even ruin this relationship with this person if what I say is going to be so bad, if what I'm thinking is actually going to come out of my head? So I had to take the time, literally in the moment, within like maybe 5 seconds, I had to talk myself down and be like, you know what, it's not worth it. The repercussions of this are just too great. And, you know, there was also other people around, and I was like, I'm just not going to say this right now. It is not worth it. And it's also not how I feel. Like deep down, I'm just angry right now with this person and with this situation. So it was really taking that chance to grow and taking that situation as a test and as a challenge, excuse me, to figure out how much I have grown. Because in the past, I probably would have been really mean. But that is about growth. That is all growth is just trying to do better the next time and the next time, and, you know, just continuously trying to be a better person. Even if, which this might be a topic for another video, which I think it actually is in one of my other ones, but even when other people are so set on you being a certain person, even if, which I sort of talk about here, that people are trying to get a certain reaction out of you, they're so caught up in who you used to be. And maybe if you were someone who used to react on impulse, and if they still have that idea of you in their mind, and they still want to take that reaction out of you, and they still want to, you know, see how far they can push you. And if you know that you've grown, you know, just don't, I think I say this in another video, but just like, don't even pay it any mind. If you know that you are greater than that reaction, allow them to have whatever view of you that they're going to have. If they want to still stay stuck in that version of you from 5 or 10 years ago, just let them. Like, I feel like that just means that they are not growing on their own, or that they can't exercise or extend any forgiveness to you because they still want you to be this terrible person in their mind and to fit this certain mold in their head. Just like, let them do what they're going to do. It doesn't matter. As long as you know that you have grown and you are not reacting the same, and you are taking all of these tests and all of these lessons, and you're doing something with that, and you are not giving in to the impulse, then, you know, that's what it is. There are sometimes, like, in these situations that will test us, that this also happened to me last year, where, like, I got mad at something and the person was like, I knew you were like that. Like, they wanted me to react that way so bad. And, you know, at the time I didn't really know it. Like, I wasn't self-aware enough to be like, okay, I don't need to react this way. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me react out of character. But, you know, they got what they wanted, and that was justification enough for them to think that, like, I'm still this person. So sometimes there will be situations like that test you. But again, as long as you know that you are growing, you know that these challenges on your journey are just there to test you and to see how much you've grown. And you can prove your growth by reacting a different way, by reacting in kindness to continue and to stay yourself. I was trying to mesh those words. But you're continuing to be kind, you're continuing to be calm and respectful and patient. Like, sometimes, like, we do snap. Like I said, sometimes there are those situations where we might allow our triggers to take over, even for like a second. And, you know, growing is knowing that you can, you know, still come back from that. As long as you haven't, like, killed anybody or whatever. That might be different. That might be a different situation. But yeah, I think as long as it's like a situation, I'm not going to get too far ahead of that, but I think you know what I mean. But yeah, there will be those times that test you. And, you know, in these moments, with these situations and with these people that are trying to get the best of you, try to take a few seconds to reflect on your growth and to reflect on the situation. Is this something that you want to stand up for yourself for? Is this something that you want to, you want to keep your feelings to yourself? Is this something that you feel like you're going to be petty about? Take a few seconds to figure out the best reaction for you based on your growth and based on what you have learned about yourself and, just how far you've come. Because healing, I feel like, will teach you when each reaction is warranted, when you should do those things, and you should allow your growth to be your guide through every situation. So that was today's video. And I forgot to say this earlier, but if you ever want to read there on my Monday videos, there's a blog down in the description. But yes, I think I'm gonna have to put that on like the thumbnail or something. But either way, yeah, I hope that was helpful. Just to know that, yes, sometimes those situations can really, really test you, and know you're not alone when sometimes you really want to be mean and you want to be petty and you want to react a certain way and you kind of want to resort to your old self. Just reflect on your growth and really think about if that reaction is worth it or not. If it is worth, the repercussions, if it's worth affecting your relationship with this person or whatever. And if that is somebody that you want to be, whether or not it is somebody, maybe it's a situation where you're at the grocery store and you just want to be mean. Do you want that to be reflective of who you are and how much you've grown? So I think whenever you're in a situation like that, just take a few seconds to think about it. And I feel like as soon as you take those few seconds, I feel like that emotion kind of goes away. Because when I took those few seconds, when that happened to me the other day, that emotion was gone. And I was like, okay, like this was just my anger. This was just fleeting. This isn't exactly how I feel. This was just a situation that I was irritated about. So yeah, just take the time to reflect. We are still growing. Like I said, give yourself grace and understanding that not every situation is going to be perfect. Sometimes we will be mean. Sometimes even like not even on purpose, which is when I was like rehearsing this, I kind of go through them each time just to make sure I get my thoughts in a line. But yes, sometimes there will be situations where we express our emotions to people and the other people will feel hurt. It's not exactly like our intention, but I feel like sometimes, we do hurt people unintentionally, and sometimes others are not really on that same growth journey and they don't really want to do that reflection and they don't really want to hear that they've hurt somebody else. So that can be also difficult too. And I think that is also part of choosing choosing your battles. If this is something that you have talked to somebody about before, that you've expressed your feelings about before, and this person just kind of brushed you off and didn't want to hear, that, if that comes up again, that is something that you need to reflect on, if that is actually worth you speaking up about again for a second time. Like, what would it do if you spoke up about that again? Would that person hear you? Would they brush you off again? Are they a little bit more open-minded to other things? Like, that is just something that, like I said, through growth, that is going to teach you when you need to do each thing, when you need to react a certain way. So just allow your growth and your intuition to guide you. And that's all we can really do, I suppose, in this life. So yeah, I'm going to end that there. And, if you feel called to, definitely subscribe, leave me a comment if you've ever been in a similar situation where a situation or a person has tested you and you've been like, not today. I'm not reacting that way today. So yeah, let me know. I'd love to hear. But that was it for today. Like I said, today's Monday. I will be back Wednesday and Friday with another message. And I think I'm going to record these all in one sitting. I like that idea. And that's just better for my time. So you will see me in the same outfit the rest of the week. But that is it. Bye for now. I will see you Wednesday and Friday.